Today's show is a melting pot of history and culture with a touch of weather, an interesting mix you don't want to miss. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Keep watching for your daily fix of Jamaica Magazine.
It's the 9th staging of the JIS Heritage Competition, and this year we're talking slavery and reparation. Entries are now open, so listen up. Primary and prep school students, this is what you should do. Imagine that you are one of the 7 national heroes. Make your case for Jamaica to be compensated for the effects of slavery. Answer this question in an essay of 400 to 500 words and submit using the application form on our website, jis.gov.jm. Entrants must be aged 9 to 12 years old. Secondary students, the poster competition is for you. Submit your digital or illustrated posters to depict the theme, Jamaica, a case for reparation. The photo competition is open to tertiary students in accredited Jamaican institutions. Send us a photo, also representing the theme, Jamaica, a case for reparation. All entries should be submitted using the application form on the JIS website. For more information, contact 876-922-3590, extension 2137 or 2132. You may also email heritageessay@jis.gov.jm, heritageposter@jis.gov.jm, and heritagephoto@jis.gov.jm. Deadline for entries is Monday, October 28. Go ahead, express yourself in the JIS Heritage Competition 2019.
Welcome to our museum. So the role of Nanny of the Maroon in Freedom for the Maroon is that she provide, or she make herself into the diligent leader that one would have been looking for. One with spirituality, one with the zeal of moving on, and one with the zeal to protect. And so what she did was to ensure that her people had been served the right way, in which she ensures that they were no longer in slavery. So what she did was to undermine the British on the plantation with the help of her 2 sisters, Mishibo Kwashi and Shanti Rose. And so doing that, they took their people to the mountains where they had an advantage over the British. The British had to import dogs or bloodhounds from Cuba to hunt them down. Now later on, when the treaty was signed and Jamaica gained independence, it was really a hard tussle for people to recognize Nanny for who she was. Thanks to recent Colonel Harris of Moortown, who had made that one of his deepest dream and one of his aim, one of the most sustainable thing that he was going to work on, so that Nanny could have been today the national heroine of Jamaica.
Some of our heroes, like Nanny, fought on the battlefield for freedom, while others, like Dr. Clinton Hutton, who's showcased in our next feature, have fought to preserve our culture. Watch this.
I specialize in the philosophy of Caribbean politics, both historically and presently, through the centuries coming up. Politics of decolonization, the politics of resistance and social, radical and revolutionary movements in the Caribbean. My father, who had a shop on a bar, he had friends some elder friends. My father was born in 1893, and his friends were born during that period in the early 20th century. And they used to sit in the bar every night and talk. And they talk politics, and they talk history, and they talk about sports as well. So I learned from my father before I was 10. I know about World War I, I know about World War II, I know about Antonio Maceo and Jose Marti. And so I have this interest in politics, in political movements in the Caribbean, political movements in the world, in political thinkers, in history from ancient times, from antiquity. So I do know that when I grow up, what I will do will have something to do with those things. I went to Jericho all-age school. At age 16, I started teaching at that school. My first paycheck for the month was $92. No, $92 when I was 16 was big. It was 1971. I have taught all the age groups. I taught at primary, then secondary, and then university. But yes, I've been at U for 25 years. Teaching people to imagine is critical. Teaching them to analyze is very, very important. Teaching them to ask questions. Teaching them to find solutions. And teaching them to see learning as an adventure. I've actually started drawing, which I learned from my mother. I started to draw when I was 3 years old. And I started painting when I was about 5 and 6. My works of art, I've published over 200. I've written extensively about the visual arts because I think that we learn a lot about art out of Europe. What we need to do, we should be master of learning about arts over the world, across the world. But importantly, we need to know about our own artistic tradition and what constitutes beauty in our art. One of the reasons first of all, for taking so much pictures, well, one certainly is to record things. But I have taken hundreds, thousands of photos on the Rastafari movement. Far more than that, probably over 1 million photos on revival. I've written and published extensively. I have attended close to 100 conferences. I've written close to 100 conference papers. I have written many academic articles for academic journals. I've written 20-odd book chapters. This book is called The Logic and the Historical Significance of the Haitian Revolution and the Cosmological Roots of Haitian Freedom. That's a long topic. But what it does is to enter the debate on the Haitian Revolution as it was written and is being written today. I'm not given to high praises and so on. That's the way I am. But yes, it's good that you recognize what you're doing. I have a tremendous level of self-motivation and a tremendous level of interest in the wisdom and creativity of ordinary people.
Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, celebrating over 20 years of investment in community development. JSIF has forged relationships with international funding partners as well as private and public sector entities. Let us continue to invest to reduce vulnerabilities. Let us build our social capital and resilient infrastructures to ensure full participation in Vision 2030. JSIF, investing for community development. Are you ready for an adventure? Right now, join JIS TV producer Janisha Dugan as she takes us to the culturally rich parish of St. Catherine.
When you hear the names of places like Old Harbour, Spanish Town, Bogwalk, what is the one thing that they all have in common? They are in the parish of St. Catherine, and St. Catherine is my parish. It's my home, and it is also the home of Jamaica's first free black community, Sligoville, the third longest river, Rio Cobre, and some of the oldest bridges. The historic cast iron bridge is 81 feet long and 15 feet wide. It was built in 1801 and is said to be the oldest of its kind in the Western Hemisphere. Today we take a look at some of the things St. Catherine has to offer, so join us on our journey through this historic parish.
Beach are the best community. Fish them proper, everything that's good. Original fish we have over here, no bomb fish. We large here, extra large. We take shot over here, here.
We're in the farming district of Colbeck, visiting the Colbeck Castle. Though the castle is just in ruins, the walls still stand. So let's take a journey through it. The origins of Colbeck Castle are shrouded in mystery. There is very little reference to it in the early records, but it is believed to have been built at the end of the 17th century when Jamaica was seized by the British. Colbeck Castle is among the oldest plantation houses in Jamaica. Milk and Poros, one already, two alright. That may not have been their exact words, but all were aboard this very station waiting to travel either east or west of the island via the Old Harbour train station. Today, this Georgian-style structure, though broken, still stands and the train still traverses its tracks, carrying Jamaica's precious commodity, bauxite. But that one shipment of bauxite moved from Old Harbour and passes through the historically shaped Spanish Town, then onto the famous Aki Commerce area of Linstead. By now you would have probably figured out where we are. We are at the Flat Bridge, and I read that the Flat Bridge is sometimes called the 16-mile walk. Why, you may ask? That's probably because in the 1700s, the 16 plantations surrounding the Bogwalk area had to send 1 in every 50 slaves to work on the river road. Before there was the highway, whenever the Rio Cobre overflowed its banks, motorists had to travel through Sligoville, the same Sligoville that was the first free black community in Jamaica.
Sligoville is a community that is made up of some smaller communities. But Sligoville is the hub. Sligoville is the base where most of the historical activities took place. We are standing on one of the 30 acres of land that were
distributed as 3 villages. That is once a house that is supposed to be using from those days. But what happened is that during slavery, the slave master would live up on the top part, and below it, they have a little cultivation for the slaves. It has all the attributes of a house being used at that time, because they have wackland, daub, and things like those. So it's one of the old-time houses.
Our journey today ends here in Riversdale, the home of the Natural Bridge.
This area, we used to play pokinas, keep party, and stuff like that. There's a cave that can lead you to about 20 miles, about 18 miles from here to our next district they call Crawl.
What is pokina?
It's like a card pack, right? But it's a book, like a bingo book, with all the cards on it. Like the queen, the art, but it's a big book where you use stone and mark it, and you pick that card pack. And when you pick that card pack, the number that come up, if you have it, just like bingo.
So bingo is a newer version then of pokina.
Yeah. Well, the Natural Bridge is a great place, as you can see. It's the 8 wonders, and it's built out of strictly stones. No addition. It is just stone, so it's natural. It's just natural. So I'd like people to explore it, see what it's all about, and they can see it for themselves.
177 steps later, and we're finally back at the top. So guys, what you've just seen is just a little bit of St. Catherine's history. The parish has a lot more to offer. So guess up, gear up, go and go the road now.
And now we transition to the weather. It's easy to forget about atmospheric conditions when it's bright and sunny. But there's a group of persons that's always watching, those who work at the Meteorological Service of Jamaica. Up next, find out what happens when they spot a severe weather system that may affect the island.
Tropical Storm Hugo has been upgraded to a hurricane and is expected to impact Jamaica. A hurricane warning is now in effect.
Wait! Did you know there are a few steps that have to be taken before a hurricane advisory is issued? Once a tropical cyclone has formed in the Atlantic or the Caribbean, the Met Service monitors it and puts plans in place in the likelihood that the system will affect Jamaica.
Hugo, we required additional staffing, especially for
These include increasing the number of technical staff working at the National Meteorological Center and the number of upper air observations daily, and ensuring that the weather and technical equipment in the office are fully functional. They are in constant dialogue with the National Hurricane Center in the United States, which provides regular updates on the system. Once the Met Service does an assessment and determines that the system is a threat to Jamaica, the following will unfold.
Yes, Prime Minister Holness. Yes, Evan Thompson here from the Met Service. I'm really just calling to update you on the situation with Hurricane Hugo. It continues to move closer to the island, and so we believe that it will be necessary for us to move to that hurricane warning. So we're just making sure that we have your approval.
Then?
Hello, yes, hurricane specialist, please. Hi, how are you doing? Evan here again from Jamaica. Right, I've just spoken with the Prime Minister. He's in agreement that we go to the hurricane warning by 5 o'clock this evening. That's correct.
The National Hurricane Center publicizes this information internationally, and the Met Service prepares and sends bulletins to the local media. And that is how we get here.
A hurricane warning is now in effect for the island.
And as the country prepares for the weather system, the Met Service continues to play a critical role in the country's disaster readiness, providing information to the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management and the local government ministry. These entities use this information to determine which areas on the island should be evacuated and where shelters should be opened. That's not all. The Met Service also works closely with the Coast Guard to evacuate fishermen at sea, on the quays and banks before the storm hits. That is how the Met Service keeps Jamaicans in the know so that they can better prepare for any severe weather system.
Jamaica's location in the Caribbean basin makes us vulnerable to the eventualities of the hurricane season. It is therefore critical that from June to November we always prepare for tropical cyclones. The location of system formation and their usual paths places Jamaica at risk for the entire 6 months of the hurricane season. Systems form in the Western Caribbean, that's Jamaica's location, or in the Gulf of Mexico at the start of the hurricane season. But as we move through July and August, we see development more in the Eastern Caribbean. Systems that develop here tend to move towards the west in the general direction of Jamaica. Then around September and October, we see systems developing more off the west coast of Africa or over the open waters of the tropical Atlantic Ocean. But the tendency again is that they move towards the west with a slight drift to the north, again placing Jamaica in a bullseye position. As we go into November, there is a shift to development in the Western Caribbean once again, sometimes in the southwestern region, but they move towards the north. Again, Jamaica is a target. So if we look at the trends over the last 18 years, from year 2000 to 2018, we see that several systems have affected the island, such as Hurricane Ivan in 2004, Dean in 2007, or even Sandy in 2012. Many people say that Ivan only passed close to Jamaica, it never really hit us, but it was a direct hit. We came within the ambit of the most tremendous wind speeds that are associated with a tropical cyclone. The eye wall moved over the southern coastline. Dean in 2007 was another hit for us. The center of the system was off the south coast, but again we came within the eye wall of Dean as it moved along the south coast. And in 2012 we had that visitor from the south. This was Sandy moving over the eastern part of the island, making its entry near Harborview and exiting around Port Antonio on the northeast coastline. It moved across the island as a Category 1 hurricane. We also had some systems that had unexpected but significant impact over the island. We had Wilma in 2005. This was one of the most powerful hurricanes ever formed. The system lingered in the early stage of development just off the southwest coast of Jamaica. We got 2 weeks of heavy rain, even though it did not move over the island. And then in 2008, you might remember Gustav. Gustav caused significant flooding and devastation as it moved across the country. And it was not even a hurricane, it was a tropical storm. Then there was Nicole back in 2010, which caused severe flooding even though it was not even named a tropical storm when the rains were pounding the island. We also had systems that didn't affect us despite our preparations. 2 of the most memorable ones were Tropical Storm Earl and Hurricane Matthew, both of them occurring in 2017. If we look at especially Matthew, all the models were projecting a direct hit for Jamaica, but that is not what happened. Instead, it moved a little toward the east and it devastated Haiti. Some persons may use this as an excuse for not taking hurricane warnings seriously, but remember that despite the technology and the advances that are made in predicting the path of these systems, tropical cyclones are still somewhat unpredictable. It is always better to be prepared for systems that might hit but don't rather than be unprepared for one that hits us. So the message I want to get out there is about being prepared all the time, because a tropical depression, a tropical storm, or a hurricane could be a threat anytime before or during the hurricane season.
Researchers say that climate change trends for the Caribbean include increased temperatures, rising sea levels, stronger and more frequent storms and hurricanes, and unpredictable rainfall patterns. In Jamaica, many older persons will tell you that there was a time when they could easily predict the rainy season, and they would use that prediction to decide when to plant their crops. But this has changed. A warmer earth means an atmosphere with more energy and moisture. As in other parts of the world, these two factors result in more extreme Caribbean weather, such as floods, hurricanes, heat waves, and droughts. From 2013 to 2015, Jamaica underwent its worst drought in 50 years. Many people in the city didn't have water in their pipes. In rural areas, water in springs and streams dried up. Jamaica's eastern parishes got 90% less than their normal annual rainfall. Agricultural production fell by more than 30%. Losses due to crop failures and wildfires were estimated at $1 billion. Fast forward to 2017, and there were many incidents of flooding all over the country. The increased irregularity in rainfall that led to severe drought on one hand and extreme flooding on the other is a sign of a changing climate. Scientists have also documented a strong connection between the impacts of superstorms like Hurricanes Sandy and Maria and the human-caused global warming. In Helshaw, the fishing community can tell many stories of the sea now being in places where houses once stood. In Negril, the ocean is now much closer to the hotels than it was several years ago. So, climate change is real, and it is changing how we live in Jamaica. In part 3 of this video, you will hear more about what we as Jamaicans can all do to help.
This is where my sojourn with you ends today. Share this and any other edition of Jamaica Magazine with friends and family. Just visit our YouTube channel and send them a link. Also, we love to see those likes, so stop by our social media pages and give us a thumbs up. I'm Adrian Atkins, and until then, do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.